So we're at the step where we're going to put the face on the door now. But before we do that, it's a good time to go ahead and talk about our vents. Our vents are going to be one at the bottom, about right there, and one at the top, out right there. That will give us airflow in to feed the fire and airflow out so the smoke can exhaust. What we're going to do is you're going to take two pieces of wood and you're going to drill holes in them. We're going to use a hole saw. A hole saw comes in a lot of different sizes. This one's 2 inches. The important thing to remember here is that you have to have enough space between the holes to close the gap completely. So closed, closed, closed. Okay? So as you slide it, you want to make sure that you can vary the degrees of airflow from all the way open to all the way closed. So here we go. We're going to mark this off. We're going to use the board we've already got. And we'll have dimensions of this on our cut list so you can see it. We're just going to go ahead and draw our circles like this. Okay. Draw our circles like that. Now, be very careful when you're using a hole saw. It is a very dangerous tool because what happens is as you screw into the wood, when these teeth bite, it pulls the drill. So just be prepared for that. Hold on tight. And actually, let's go ahead and add a couple of screws in here so that the wood stays mounted together. We don't have to worry about it moving around. Okay, once you've cut through one piece of wood, go ahead and stop. Take out a pair of pliers or a knife, something that you can fit into the edge, and pry out the first piece of wood. If you get both pieces of wood stuck in the hole saw, it can be very difficult to get them out. So now we're going to go ahead and put the face of the door on. We have our 2 vent pieces cut, top and bottom, and we'll just put them in series as we go up all the way to the top. So we've got all the wood on the door now, and we're ready to put a handle on. So kind of the rule of thumb that I think of when I'm working with a handle or a bench or something like that is wherever it's comfortable. So what you do is you take your arm, you hold it to your side and stick it out like that, and that's where it fits. So that's where this handle's going. There's the handle. Next, let's put on the racks. All right, so I'm going to show you how to countersink and pre-drill each piece of wood that we do for this pallet smokehouse. So what we've got here is a very fine joint that we want very square. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the countersink bit, I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to drill 2 holes. One here, and one about there. Pop that out. Put in the 1/8 drill bit. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Knock off the stuff on the back so it doesn't get in the way. Line that up. Now that I have my 2 holes drilled, go ahead and put my screws in. I'll do the top one first. Just get squared up. And that's a nice square joint, and the wood didn't crack because we pre-drilled and countersunk, and now our screws are out of the way. Now we're putting together the racks that will go inside the smoker. So what we've got is a couple of pre-drilled and countersunk holes on the corners and a couple of screws. We're going to go ahead and just screw our parts together. The part you're screwing through is the longer part of the two, and the part you're screwing into is the shorter one. That'll make a square part that fits inside this size smoker. Now once we've got all four sides done, we'll go ahead and put our screen on. Now we have our frame for our rack. Next, we need our screen. So what we have here is a fine mesh aluminum screen. We do not want to use galvanized. Again, I repeat, do not use galvanized screen because it is toxic. So you want to stay away from construction cloth. And absolutely you want to be using metal. You don't want to be using plastic because it'll just melt. So if you have a rack, like expanded steel or maybe some old barbecue racks, that would be perfect too. You just screw them on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our length like that. Have about 1.5 inches of excess on each side. I got plenty there. And just go ahead and cut this piece off. Now this roll of aluminum screen is 36 inches wide and will make several racks. It's probably the most expensive part of the whole smokehouse is the screen. Everything else is pretty inexpensive. Once we've got our edge established, we're just going to take our stapler, staple across the top, pull, make sure you're taut, got plenty of, take all the slack out. There we go. And then as I do this edge here, this is where you really want to make sure you pull nice and tight. You can see how much flex I'm getting there. You want to make sure you get that real good everywhere you put a staple. And again, on this side, same thing, nice and tight. Pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this over and we're going to put a whole nother row of staples in because that's going to give us our strength. These staples will tear this if we're not careful, especially if you put a bunch of weight on it. So one of the steps you want to take is you want to put some screen over the holes where the vents are so flies don't get to your meat. That's pretty simple. You're just going to cut some of your screen and staple or screw it on. The other part of this is your vent hole cover. So this thing slides back and forth and covers your holes. What we've done, we just took 2 little pieces of wood, screwed them together here like that to form a clamp. Just set it on right like that. Screw it in. And we'll have the ability to slide our holes back and forth and regulate our incoming and exiting air. Just like that. Now, you can move that back and forth, close off the air, or turn it all the way on. Very easy. Nothing exceptionally difficult about that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom, and then we'll get to the roof. All right, so we've put the vent covers on. We've got all the framing together. We've got all the doors on and everything. So last part is to seal this thing up. Now, we're going to go ahead and use heavy gauge aluminum foil or tin foil. It's a little bit thicker than the normal stuff that you would use for cooking, but it's cheap and pretty easy to get. So here's what we're going to do. We'll just set our box down at the bottom there. We'll roll this up to the top. My trusty staple gun here. We're just going to staple along this edge to start off with. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect, but this is the tricky part. We want to fold this into the corner, coming down like that. So you're going to fold over a little bit, just like that, and up into the crease so that we can get a better seal. We'll just staple that in place there, and that. Now, we're going to, when we come to this, is take your finger and tear out a hole for your vent, just like that. No big deal. Very easy to work with. Staple that there and there. Come down to the bottom. Give yourself a little extra. Tear that off. There we go. Tear another little hole for my vent. The great thing about this aluminum foil is it's really flexible and easy to use. You could use flashing, you could use aluminum flashing, but that's quite expensive to cover this amount of square footage. Again, you don't want to use any galvanized anything because galvanized, as it heats up, it's toxic. So I'm just going to continue to do this all the way through the whole smoker. And when I come to this wall here where I've got the shelving for the racks, I'm just going to feed it behind. I'm not real worried about these. If they do get charred or something like that, just replace them. It's no big deal. We'll do the ceiling, the back wall, behind the struts on this side, and the door, and we'll be done. All right, so we've put our aluminum foil in. Now, the goal of the aluminum foil is kind of to protect the wood, but mostly to seal the smokehouse so that smoke doesn't escape. You can control the smoke through the vents in and out. So if you do leak in some form or another, and I'm betting that you may have to do some adjustments, go ahead and staple up your aluminum foil in areas where you're leaking at, and that should seal it pretty good. This smokehouse has got enough room to take a whole hog, or, well, depending on how big it is, but a medium-sized hog or a Texas-sized deer, maybe not an Oregon-sized mule deer. It'll take almost all of it. This should do pretty close to 100 pounds of meat. And I've had a bunch of hammers sitting on top of these, and they support the weight just fine. Next, we're going to go ahead and slide our roofing on. Close that up. It's kind of a tight fit. There we go, which is good. And what we've got here is a 4-foot piece of 3-foot wide aluminum roofing. This is standard at pretty much any hardware store. It comes in 8-foot sections, so we cut this in half to get this piece. And all we're gonna do set that on top. Have about 6 inches, 8 inches of overhang in the front and a few in the back. Screw it down, caulk where you put your screws on or in, and then you're done. This smoker will hopefully meet all your needs.